Hi, I'm Lex Michael for Popcorn Talk, and I'm here at San Diego Comic-Con, and I'm talking to Stephen Krammer Glickman. How are you, sir?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So you're here promoting Storks.
Yes. I'm in this movie Storks with Andy Samberg and Key and Peele and Kelsey Grammer and Jennifer Aniston and Ty Burrell and a bunch of other wonderful people. And I'm in that film, and it's amazing. And I play Pigeon Toady, the pigeon that lives on Stork Mountain.
So, obviously, getting to be a voice in a movie of this caliber, of this scale, with this cast, that's a big deal. That's a huge achievement.
It's an ordeal. It's a big deal to me. It's a life-changing thing for me, for sure. I've never been in a movie before. This is my first movie, so.
So I really wanted to talk to you about the journey, your career trajectory, because you started as a comic in Canada, the Great White North, correct?
Yes. Well, I grew up I was born in Canada, grew up in San Diego, California. And then I did stand-up in Los Angeles and New York City, back and forth, and then got into kind of found my way into my career. It's been a fun, weird road.
Sure. So you got an opportunity that I thought, when I heard about it, was really exciting. You were Shrek.
Yeah, well, I originated the role of Shrek in Shrek The Musical on Broadway, but for like the Broadway workshops and the readings of it, I sing, and so I worked on that with Jeffrey Katzenberg and David Geffen, and we had Sutton Foster, who's amazing, who was playing Fiona, and John Tartaglia, who won the Tony Award for Avenue Q, was our Pinocchio, and it was amazing. Like I was super lucky to be a part of that cast, and I worked on it for like 2 years, almost, about a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. And then right before it went to Broadway, they replaced me with Brian Darcy James, who's a phenomenal actor and very, very talented. And I left and came out to Los Angeles and then was cast on Big Time Rush on Nickelodeon.
And was that, at least in part, off the back of having done the work in Shrek? Did that open some doors for you?
No, it opened some huge doors, and they got to a point where they were like, okay, well, he's a professional. He's not a lunatic. Like, he works. He can make things happen. And then anytime you get any work that's legit and big, it just lends legitimacy to your career. And then other people feel comfortable in bringing you in and letting you, test out other parts of your career and try out other things. And one thing's kind of led to another.
So you got that show, and obviously that represents, I would say, a significant and additional step up, because you're reaching a television audience, which is a much bigger audience than you're gonna reach playing to one audience a night in a theater.
Oh yeah, no, it was insane. I mean, the crazy thing about Big Time Rush is that like we shot almost the entire first season without people seeing the show, so we had no idea if people would like it. So we were just being silly and being jackasses and screwing around and improvising and doing all sorts of weird stuff, and no one really cared. They just kind of let us be funny and weird, and then the show premiered, and it premiered as the highest rated premiere in the history of Nickelodeon.
Nice.
We got our first rating was a 14.9, which is insane as far as ratings are concerned. And so they immediately booked us for another a back 9 episodes on the first season, and then it just kind of kept going. And we did 4 seasons on it, and we did a movie, and a TV movie.
Sure.
And it was insane. Like, immediately, I start going out into the world, and kids are like, and like pointing and freaking out and wanting to give me hugs, and then their parents are like coming up to me after stand-up shows, and they want to chat and they want to hang out, or worse. Sure. It was crazy. It was a crazy experience, and it just kind of let me kind of realize that, I got to follow my instincts. I got to listen to my instincts. And that's really what helped me book Storks, was just listening to, if, and not being afraid. Not if you're in a room and you're in a room with, the biggest directors and the biggest producers in the world, you still have to, be funny. You still have to let yourself be you.
Right.
You got to burn that energy out real quick and not feel nervous, you know?
Sure. So the next two questions I wanted to ask you was then, okay, how did the Storks opportunity come about? How'd you get involved? And then, what is it like being on a trajectory where you are consistently jumping into bigger and bigger and bigger ponds?
Like, it's real weird because, I know a lot of really terrific actors who work for years and years and years, and they play, a guest star. They do guest star. They do, little, reoccurring. They'll have a reoccurring part on something, reoccurring couple episodes here, couple episodes there, and then maybe they'll step up and get a smaller part in a movie. Or they'll get this or that, and my career's been real weird. It was my first real big job was starring on a TV show. My first real big job was starring in a Broadway musical.
Right.
Then which turned out, I didn't get to do the show on Broadway, but I got to do the show at 42nd Street, and my family got flown out and got to watch me, and I got to do all the prosthetics, and I still get paid for working on that show, which is insane.
That's cool.
And then my next job was not a small job. It was one of the series regulars on a Nickelodeon series that runs for 5 years. And then my next job after that is starring in a movie next to some of the biggest actors in the world. And it's really, okay, so here's how Storks happens, right?
Okay.
Because it's just weird. It's just a weird career, and I love it. And I'm super in. I'm super happy to be here, happy to be doing what I'm doing. Here's how Storks happens. Storks, like all animated movies, takes about 3 to 4 years to make from start to finish. Okay, so they were looking for scratch vocal people to do rough draft voices on the movie, and then for the rough draft people, there was I don't know exactly how many of us there were, but there was probably about 8 or 9 of us or something like this, and we're all very talented, great fun. They were all very talented, very nice people. And so you go in and they give you the script and you do the scenes, and then slowly they go, okay, that's great, and then they take your voice and they give it to the animators and they start drawing and they start creating the characters and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Based on what your voices kind of sound like, they'll kind of pre-animate things, right? And then once they've got the basics done, they go, okay, well, thanks for being our rough draft voice. Get the hell out of here. Right. And they bring in the big stars, and that's who takes over for everything. And that's how they always do it.
And that's when you bring in typically your Andy Samberg.
Right. That's when those guys are involved earlier, but they're not involved, from the start, because they have to have the rough draft people to kind of get through it. And that's how all animated movies work. So I was one of the rough draft voices, and so was Katie Crown, who plays the lead female in the movie, which is insane. Yeah. She's insanely talented, and she's done a ton of voiceover work, and she's amazing. So you have but her and Andy they'd play off each other really well, and people loved listening to the two of them, and she just worked so well. And so when it came down to fight to keep, some of the rough draft people, Nick Stoller and Doug Sweetland, who are directing the movie, Doug did Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Get Him to the Greek, all sorts of great stuff. They fought real hard to keep me in the project, and to keep Katie in the project. And then they won out, and with a little help from Phil Lord and their whole Lord and Miller is kind of they're the producers on the film, so
it definitely doesn't hurt to have them in your corner.
No, when they're in your corner, I met Phil Lord, and he was I told them they have to keep you in the movie, and I was oh my God, just crying, I can't believe it's happening. And so then they kept me in, and now I get to be in this insane movie, and it's crazy. It's crazy. Dude, it's insane.
It's insanely exciting, and it's a movie for families.
Yeah, it's gonna be a big family movie, and it's really funny. It's a movie about storks used to deliver babies, but then something got messed up, and they couldn't deliver one of the babies. And so because they couldn't deliver a baby, they're oh no, let's stop delivering babies and only deliver packages. So they become a package delivery, like kind of like Amazon Prime, where they fly down, they drop it right at your front door, like that kind of deal.
Sure.
And so they have them doing that, and then by accident, someone turns on the baby making machine and makes a baby. Uh-oh. And they're like, we have to deliver it, and if anyone finds out, we're in big trouble. And I play the evil kind of bad guy in the movie. I'm the villain, but I'm also kind of an idiot. So it's like an idiot villain character who like is trying to figure out what's going on and is trying to figure out where the baby is, if there is a baby, and right. where this baby is. And I play the only pigeon in the movie. So it's ridiculous. And I have a toupee. It's great.
Nice, dude. That's really exciting. And when can people see that movie?
Yeah, movie comes out in September. And September 23rd, I believe, is the premiere. That's when it comes out. And you can check out the trailer online. And fun fact, in the trailer, my character, Pigeon Toady, interviews a snow monkey, a rabbit, and a polar bear, and I play all three of those characters as well. And the only reason I got to play those is because when we were recording the scratch vocals, I was like, hey, who's doing these guys? Who's playing these little parts? And they were like, nobody yet. And I was like, can I do them? Can I just do them real quick? And they were like, yeah, I guess. We'll see if we ever use it. And I was like, okay. And so I did funny voices for each of the characters, and they stuck, and they're in the movie.
That's awesome. And that sounds like a blast. That sounds like
great. It's so much fun. It's like the best time. And then getting to come to Comic-Con and come hang out, and it's amazing. It's super fun.
That's really exciting. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Of course, man.
And
an honor and a pleasure.
Everybody be sure to go check out Storks when it hits theaters. Throw them that date one more time.
Yeah, it's September 23rd, and if you're on Twitter, hit me up at Stephen Glickman, Stephen Glickman on Twitter, and check out the Nighttime Show podcast. Peace!